Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today's webinar. My name is Samir Aliyev and I'm CEO and founder of Civil Cyber Forum. Our company is the cybersecurity community in Switzerland, and we bring individuals and organizations together on the topic of cybersecurity and data privacy. Today we are presenting you data protection concerns after the lockdown, after the COVID-19, which I have a very special guest, Baroum Mrad is a DPO of Cantonal Hospital of Ticino. We had another actually webinar we seen with Baroum. The topic was data protection during the pandemic. Now we are talking about data protection after the pandemic. Therefore, it is very special topic and I hope it will be helpful for you. And before I jump to the topic, I would like to give you some housekeeping rules. If you have any question, please use the Q&A button on the bottom of your windows. We will answer all your questions after our presentation, after our panel discussion. Also, please type them into a question box. You have also a question box there. We will receive it automatically. I will bring up them during the presentation, and we will also have time for question at the end of the presentation. Now, without further speech, I would like to start my presentation with, actually today we didn't prepare any presentation. We will make a panel discussion with Baroum, and it will be practice-oriented, actionable advice for you and for your companies. So as you know, COVID-19 health crisis has created operational and legal challenges for public and private organizations everywhere, also in Switzerland and Europe. It has become clear that personal data will play a significant role in the containing of spread of novel coronavirus. As a pandemic has unfolded, it has been questioned whether Europe's data protection rules or Switzerland's data protection rules considered among the world's most restrictive and would implement remediation measures. But as a European data protection authorities, a lot of 28 authorities there have released guidance outlining lawful approach to the data processing to fight COVID-19 health crisis. Also in Switzerland, we have seen several guidelines to process personal data related to COVID-19. It has become apparent that the data protection in this context is not an impediment to resolve the crisis as long as it is correctly understood and applied. Therefore, we are going to talk with several specific topics with Baroum. And first, we are going to talk about employment law and employment relationship after the lockdown. If you go back to your office, you have to receive an employment notice from your employer, and you have to receive another process and policies, and how it should be written and how you have to interpret it with your side. Also, we are going to talk about contact tracing app in Switzerland and Europe, and we will talk about the DPO role concerning the COVID-19 after the lockdown. What the main role of the DPO to implement data protection and measure all the metrics at the company. That will be our main topics, but of course, during the conversation with Baroum, we can have another topics and specifics. Baroum, thank you very much again for your time. I know you are super busy and you took your time, and we are today here 1 hour. First 30 minutes we will talk, we will have panel discussion. Later on, we have 15 minutes Q&A session. I want to inform that this webinar will be recorded and put on the YouTube online. But of course, we are not going to share your names or anything. If you send a question, I will read it anonymously. So, Baroum, first I would like to ask about some specific question which is related to different industries and sectors. Would you give us some information which industries are mainly affected from COVID-19 and what are the impacts of them?
Yeah, well, virtually every industry has been impacted, positively and negatively, but mainly, of course, we have seen healthcare industry has been impacted with technology as well, quite heavily, but then the food industry with supply chain management, entertainment, we've seen a spike in in streaming. So that has also tested the bandwidth, the network bandwidth, education, sport, well-being, like spas and so forth. The service industry, the restaurants, we've seen that, and technology in general, and as well as businesses in terms of employees going to the office. So virtually every industry, positively and negatively, has been impacted.
Cool. And as I mentioned before, the employment relationship, and you are working as a DPO for the hospitals, and of course you have to inform your employee, you have to give them employment notice, and you have to update your privacy policy and process. What are the best practice you have implemented or you are expected to do it? Can you please share us with those information? It will be helpful for our attendees.
Yeah, we already had some good basis, of course, for employment policy or employees policy in general, and the data protection or privacy policy has been, I'm reworking it, update, because now, as you can, everyone is doing that with the impact of COVID, particularly for our employees when it comes to working from home. So that has to be updated and tailored for allowing people to work from home or remotely without having an impact on our data or so. But the telemedicine is what we'll put to test healthcare privacy in general. But yes, we are actually making sure we are compliant in terms of we have the right policy in place for our employees to be able to do what they do. Locally in the hospital, all the consent as we collect data for research purposes or so forth, we need to make sure we have a policy in place. In fact, we have consent for our employees. They can voluntarily go and get their, for example, the blood taken for antibody research and testing. So we had been tested on this front to be able to mitigate and not react to possible privacy issues.
Very good. I think you are the one of the DP of the hospitals I see online always, and you are also sharing the information. And your second or another profession is data analytics, and you, as a data analytics, would you also share us what are the roles of analytics in the company if we process the employee data or COVID-19 data?
Yeah, that was my background. Now I do full-time DPO, but the team here that is doing data has been impacted positively also, because what COVID has demonstrated is that you need data, big data. You need the right analytics at the right time, the right information at the right time in order to make and take decisions. This at every level. So a hospital, but the canton and also the confederación, as you have seen, for public health policy and for economic policy. So when it comes to data, you have to understand what you have at your disposal, how you collect it. That is very important from a data perspective. What are the individual rights? So if it's patient data, what are the rights, the fairness, the equity, but also for employees data, what are you collecting and so forth. But this data, in terms of data, I see a lot of crunching happening right now. A lot of people are elaborating, are analyzing, are creating, using data to be informed. So data, big data research is very big right now. It's definitely something to be careful on. Yeah.
Thank you. I have also some addition to this point with this employment data and processing COVID-19 context, that the companies, they have to review existing employee privacy notes and policies to ensure that they appropriately cover the processing COVID-19 related personal data. Yeah. It means that they have to update their policies and employment notice. Also, the companies, they have to ensure that the information provided allow the employees to genuinely understand why COVID-19 is related to personal data, is being collected, and for what purposes. We have to, all the companies, they have to inform the clear purposes. And in the companies, they have to enable appropriate channels that employees, visitors, clients can easily receive and access information regarding the processing of COVID-19 related data processing, personal data.
Yeah.
And we have to consider always that specific guidance, the recommendation issued by supervisory authorities or regulators, like in Switzerland from BAG or the Minister of Health. Also, if you have a sister company in Europe or as a company, you have to follow the local DPS guidelines. And quick read for this point that temperature screening will be a really hot topic when the business back to business plan for many organizations. It means that the employee, if they come back to the office, there will be temperature screening. However, the laws and regulation regarding temperature screening diverse across jurisdictions. Some jurisdictions are broadly permissive of temperature screening, also Switzerland, while other jurisdictions continue to prohibit or strictly regulate it. For this process, the companies, organizations, they must therefore access temperature screenings deployments based on relevant legal system they have, the companies, and the specific nature of the screening program. That's important for the companies to remember for their data processing process.
Yeah, it's important to say that in order to have better analytics, that means you need more data to have real data. That means that is further pushing the challenges to data protection. But it's important. You need more data to make good analytics. So big topic.
Yeah, it's really a big topic, and they also immunity certificates. Some companies also may ask immunity certificates. Do you have any experience on this as you work at the hospital?
In terms of immunity testing?
Yes, immunity testing and the data protection.
Yeah, of course, you can test for antibodies if you have so that's where we were challenged. You need to find to write a good consent to allow for that, and it's voluntary and it's well informed. Then we have to find a process to collect this consent, because for us, for my role, it's more like the data management, the data protection management part. So the consent has been given freely, has been signed, has been cataloged, and then the patient or the person can actually withdraw if they need to, or so forth. But then on the operative side, people are those who voluntarily applied are taking their blood testing to understand if they had COVID or they have antibodies. So that has created a lot of data in terms of research and analytics for us. And that will, when you talk about immunity, it will show what percentage has been touched and developed antibodies, which is very important to know. It's a good information to have for your employees. Yes. And then you need to store this information. But by us, it's all anonymized, pseudo-anonymized, and people have specific ways to go check their own profile to see if they have antibodies.
Cool. Thank you very much, Baroum. I think that's enough for today to talk about employment law. And I would like to touch on this hot topic which we see every day on TV and radio, contact tracing apps. Making COVID-19 contact tracing apps privacy compliant, it is really big challenge right now for the companies. For those who doesn't know what's a contact tracing app, it is an app that have emerged as a key tool to track the COVID-19 pandemic. Governments, national health service organizations, and all sides of the private companies, they are developing and implementing them as a part of their strategy to manage the return of normality. There is no question that COVID-19 contact tracing apps are here to stay. We don't know it will stay or not, but today, many organizations, many national governments, they are developing it. Also, Swiss government. There is Swiss COVID, the application which is developed by EPFL, ETA, and some cantonal hospitals, and it is on the test pilot period. Most probably end of the July. Many people in Switzerland, they have to upload or they have to use those contact tracing apps. The key question is how to ensure these apps are privacy and data protection compliant. This is the really challenge right now and the discussion. Even before this webinar, I made a poll on my LinkedIn profile and I got the answers that if you want, would you like to download contact tracing apps to your mobile phone? I got 60% no, 40% yes. All the people, they say no. Most of them, they're concerned about data protection. But from another side, if we check their mobile phones or devices, the computers, they have a lot of apps. They have a lot of contact tracing applications that the big giant tech companies like Google, Facebook, they trace them. They save their passwords on their browser and all of them have the privacy issue. So Baroum, what do you think, what we have to do, or what the governments or the organizations they develop contact tracing app, what they have to do to be sure for compliance of data protection?
Yeah, so first of all, it's a big topic. Like your statistic that you did is really impacting people's view. So there's I think a lot of misconceptions. So I start off the bat by saying you should get more information. If you are concerned or not sure about it, inform yourself. But this is also what we are here for example, you and I right now. But there has to be a clear understanding of what the technical part is and what the organizational part. Like you said, we share data every day constantly with our phone through other apps in general. What has happened is that from a technical standpoint, Apple and Google created, if you want, the basis for app developer to create these contact tracing or better proximity tracing apps. So the API, but the API was mainly developed to create interoperability. So if you travel and go to other places, it's Apple and Google are the two main platforms for apps. And then the other part is they really block many aspects of collecting data from these apps. Second, you can only develop an app, or you should only develop an app if you're an authority, so a government. In our case, Switzerland, the government, the Confederation has developed an app. So they have these restrictions and these measures, and they put privacy at the center. That's why it was very interesting. They put privacy in the center, and what they said no centralization of data collection. So we do it decentralized. The data will be on your device, which is very important. One of the first principles of data protection. Then we don't collect or we don't share personal data with anyone. You keep it, and there actually will be an ID, a pseudonymized ID that you will share with the cloud, and then you can touch later more on this one. And then it's not geolocation collecting data, it's proximity. That's the one thing that people have to be aware about. The difference is collecting proximity. The risk, of course, are there, but not right now. Right now, it's quite a solid, in my opinion, quite a solid infrastructure for these proximity tracing. What we'll have to watch is two things. One, how many people will adopt it? Because if you don't have at least 60%, it's kind of irrelevant as data of people adopting it. And then the other part is the policy around Google and Apple. If the government are pressuring Apple and Google to open up more their APIs, then yes, as a DPO, as a privacy professional, I'll be a little bit concerned. But right now, they went only on the minimal data set, which is also another principle of privacy, data collection. Minimal, collect only what you need.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much, Baroum. Also, I have some addition to your valuable insights. That the companies, they have to, or organizations, they develop this app, they have to ensure that privacy and data protection professionals and experts on the same table with them, and they have directly involvement in this development process of this COVID-19 tracing app. This is very, very important. On the right time, the right table. Also, the organizations, they have to carry out data protection impact assessment, which is any purpose the apps, COVID-19 related apps, should have DPI. Also, the organizations, they have to focus on the key privacy principles, such as transparency, that they inform, as you mentioned, decentralized, purpose limitation. We have to have a limited purpose. We cannot use all this data as long as we want for different purposes, and data minimization as part of the building block on the app. This is very important. Embedded data security or cyber security by default, it is vital because it's open source data, it's open source applications. We don't know what will happen afterward if it's working, and the cyber criminals, bad guys, they have access to this app. Also, document all the privacy and data protection measures adopted and keep them under the review and in a secure place. Don't share it with unnecessary people. Yeah, that's my side for COVID-19 tracing app. A little bit, I would like to talk about DPO role and data protection impact assessment in the context of COVID-19 measures after the lockdown. Since GDPR became in enforcement in 2018, and a lot of Swiss organizations, they have to appoint a DPO here and process personal data in the European Union states and in Switzerland, the organization have been coming grip, the role of DPO is really crucial and critical from the management side and from the implementation and the independence of the DPO role. So, Baroum, as a DPO of the state hospital, what would you like to advise our future DPOs or the people they watch us right now? What would you like to advise to implement or to manage this role after the corona?
Yeah, of course, I think privacy has been put at the center. If you thought privacy was important in 2019, 2020 has actually brought up even more issue to make you understand how much privacy is serious. Especially in my context, where it's healthcare, it's even more sensible approach that you have to take toward it. But in general, for a DPO of any organization in 2020 with the pandemic, has highlighted the importance of measures primarily that you have to take and technical measures, how you have to merge the two. These two are very important. It's really like a continuous battle and balance that you have to do. You have to understand you have the right policy in place. If you have them, are they updated? Are they up to date? No more yearly update of a policy. I would do it at least quarterly to understand the impact of such policy. So these are organizational measures. Understand better, because COVID has highlighted the process of your organization. So understand better the processes of your organization, how things work in your company. How do you process data, where you collect it, where it goes, how is processed and how is archived, the retention time for these data and so forth. So understand your company, implement the right organizational measures, which comes in form of policies and notices, your website and so forth, internally and externally. So customer facing and employee facing is very important. And then what I found that was very helpful for me and what I've seen that is actually extremely valuable is this merger with the IT part, the technical measures. So you collaborate with your IT department if you have an information security officer, for example, and then with them all the security measures you have in, how you take, like from a technical standpoint, how you take the data, where do you actually put it? We've seen, like you said in the previous webinar, we've seen a spike of cyber attack, a spike of attack in general on organization, because of course the priority was something else like the pandemic, and then we left some vulnerability out there. So I think organizational measures and technical measures are what a DPO or a professional, a privacy professional should focus on. And the best way to do your job is to learn more about your job, about your organization.
Yeah, thank you very much, Baroum. I have some notes also to this point that pandemic has changed the way that all the organizations, companies, they operate by forcing the shift towards home working. This new way of working entails the increase the risk of cyber attacks and personal data breaches. Therefore, being accountable, recording all the actions and measures are taken, keeping the pre-litigation strategy in mind when designing data processing arrangement is a key. And the role of DPO in this process is vital, that all the people, all the organizational, from organizational side, all the people, they have to contact the DPO. They have to get their opinion that what they think about this process and the essential precautions to take when employees are working remotely, including ensuring that policies, protocols, and procedures governing remote working arrangements are up to date, providing security-related trainings, which is very important if your employee is working from home with the company device, and adopting key technical measures such as use of VPNs, strong access control, and keeping employees on a high alert and increasing their cyber awareness generally. We are coming to this point right now, and therefore we will talk a little bit about precautions, cybersecurity precautions for the agile workforce working from home. So you had employee, they were working from home, as I know, and you had to implement, you had to set up some arrangements, some security arrangements. Would you like to share those best practice with us? What was your best practice to be secure when your employees working from home?
I have to say our IT department was fairly prepared already for this. They really rushed into opening up because we did not have a real working from home implementation from a technical, it's ready for people to do remotely, but on this scale, no one was prepared in general to implement it on large scale. And then when it comes to healthcare, you have to be careful what data you process from where, and also cross-border and so forth. But we implemented technical measures where you access remotely to your device, to your company tools, which are residing here in our offices and data centers. And then people, so like you said very well, there was a learning curve that we had to explain to people how to use it, how to access these remote tools, because the most important thing is allow operation to continue normally. So we had to adapt different measures, so policies, which are also being updated, but also culturally, you had to adapt the employees and saying, okay, now we have to allow for these because of also protecting employees from getting contacted with the virus here at the office. One thing that I would say, that I would add, that is very helpful for any privacy profession, which I am implementing here, or better, I'm improving, because we already had a base for it, is SAROPA, a record of processing activity. It's very important to develop a tool or a system that you trace and you track how you process data. So imagine a Cantonal Hospital is extremely complex. It's very large. So you need to keep track, especially for research, for employees' data that has been processed and so forth. So that's a good advice I would give to any privacy professional. Keep a list or create, or there are tools actually you can do a record of processing activity. With that, I also implemented, or we are working with IT on that, what is a data log architecture and system. So log, how much log you take from all your record, because then what will be a good best practice for a privacy professional now after the lockdown, which is our topic of today. What would you do is prepare for an internal audit for yourself to do on what was the activity, what was the record of processing activity, not for highlighting issues, but to go and learn from what happened, how it was processed, and implement new solutions, new processing solutions. So the logging event is very important, and the record of processing activity will help you do that. So I advise every privacy professional to go in this direction and audit themselves. Yeah.
Thank you. I have also 5-step action plan for back to the business. But before I go to these 5 step sections, I would like to ask our attendees to send their questions. Later on, we will start our Q&A session, and it will be our pleasure to receive your interesting questions, actually. So when we go back to the business, before that, we have to work from home. That's true. Therefore, we have to design and implement 5-step action plan, which is first, identify critical process. What are the critical for the company? What are the critical for the organization and process? Then we have to assess the impact on such process from work, from home office arrangements. And third one is make an inventory of home office risk relevant to critical process. And the fourth one, implement adequate measures to mitigate such a risk, and keep records of all the actions and measures, as you mentioned, record of processing. We have to keep all the records, and we have to save it for our the God's sake, and for the data protection authorities if they want to inspect your process in the future. So that is quick learning from our side. I would like to talk a little bit about cloud and digitalization, but I think we can go to Q&A session. Would you like to give some impact, some advice on digitalization? That after Corona, sure, cloud computing has proven to be key technology for business continuity, and during also after the Corona. And in many organizations, they will go for softwares, platforms, infrastructure as a service, and to use cloud solution to implement their process. So that's really big challenge for many organizations, that they have to shift from manual to online. They have to use cloud projects. Even today, we are doing our webinars on this platform. It's also software as a service. And while cloud computing has played a crucial role in keeping business open, organizations might also find cloud computing a central component of the COVID-19 exit plan. From your experience, if we have an exit plan, where we have to place cloud computing or digitalization, what are the main challenges?
When it comes to hospitals?
Yes.
Yeah, what's obvious is that cloud is out there. People have been avoiding it, especially when it comes to hospital, for obvious reason. Also, cloud, if you don't understand it, then you've been avoiding it. But for us right now, it's highlighting how important it is, and whether you like it or not, the direction is that one. Like you said very well, if it comes to working from home, to access information, to be able to continue operations of your organization, you need to focus on cloud. So it is something we have to go look at. Also, in our experience here, the challenge will be how you protect the data that you are uploading up to the cloud. What is allowed by law, and every canton we have 27 different type of local cantonal data protection law that isn't quite clear. Are clear on what you can do on cloud, but many of them, they don't give you an answer because there is no very well technological understanding of what it means to upload data when it comes to legislation. Legislation is outdated. It's very well outdated, and cloud is such a updated technology. So we are having this challenge. We are looking at what can we do, what cannot we do, but it's definitely a very useful thing to go on cloud. Actually, not just useful, it's something we will be kind of forced everybody to go on cloud. Imagine contact tracing like we talked about before.
Thank you very much, Baroum. And there are also some key considerations if we go to the cloud. And first of all, is data location and cross-border data transfer. As a Swiss company, if you are going to use the cloud, of course, you are going to do the cross-border data transfer, even if it's in cloud, and you will transfer to the EU or US-based clouds. If it's not in Swiss space, then you need to implement EU standard contractual clauses or adequacy decision or corporate binding rules to ensure the privacy. Also, sensitive data is important that you have to have overview on it. Who has an access your sensitive data on the cloud? This is crucial that to be in safe side. Data security, from another point, you have to always ask that the security report of the service providers, you have to be sure that they have really good the process, service organization control, and the ISO or other certification that the cloud computing is secure, pardon. Also, all the cloud providers, they have to give you risk, security, impact assessments. This is important. You can ask them to send their reports, and you will see the third-party reports, how they are secure. Accountability, who has an access management, password management is very important. You either use private clouds or public clouds. That makes big difference for your security in the future. Also, once you want to terminate or the transition process that you change your cloud, be sure that no data is existing in your previous cloud providers. That's crucial for the business and really will be helpful for them to set up all the process with the data protection experts of their company or external company or whatever. So that was all the topics for today. I would like to talk with you, Baroum. Do you have any question? I think we talked very well. Our attendees, they didn't send any question for us. Do you have any question or any comment?
I would just say that after the COVID, there will be many scenarios that could appear. One thing that was clear is that we need to remember that privacy is a human right. Which we've taken for granted before COVID. We have taken it for granted. Let's not take it for granted now, and has become the center of the attention to help public health and the economy. That's the main thing I wanted to let out there.
Privacy is the human right, privacy is the dignity, and the organizations, governments, any entity they process personal data, they have to respect. First of all, they have to have the proper solutions for data collection, because everything starts with the collection. We have to have proper legal base to collect data. Once we have secure and the legitimate data collection process, the rest will be okay. And the companies, they have huge database before the GDPR, and they had millions of data, let's say. They have to be careful that why do they need all those data in their database?
Yeah.
Costly. It needs a lot of resources, employee, and it is risky. Once they have the data breach, the cyber criminals or criminal guys, they can extract all those sensitive data. So that was my last notes, and thank you very much, everyone, for your time. And please stay tuned. We will have another webinars with another experts from different countries, different industries. Keep an eye on our webpage. We will update you with further webinars and blogs, articles, interviews. Thank you very much, Baroum, for your time.
Thank you, Samir.
I wish you all the best. You had a really hard job. I was seeing that you work a lot during the pandemic. And thank you very much for taking care of the patient's data in Ticino.
Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for participating. Have a great day.
Have a great day.